Many years ago, I began a search for answers. After seeing shadows, capturing hundreds of EVPs, seeing spirits, seeing a UFO, I feel as though that there are more questions than answers. The bunker is a result of years of research into the unknown. I welcome you to join me in my search for answers. Join me in the bunker. And welcome back to episode 9 of The Bunker. This is a special episode. This is going to be a year in review, and we're going to just kind of reflect on 2019 and just go over some of the things we've done, some of the things that have happened, and we're going to also look ahead to 2020 and talk about some of the things that will be coming up and some of the different things we're going to be doing on the bunker in the coming year. So tonight with me is Beth.
Hello.
And TJ.
I am so glad to be back. I feel like I was here for, 2 episodes? And then I left, and you got, crazy popular. So maybe I shouldn't be here.
No,
it's just...
I went to Louisiana, and all of a sudden you're, multinational. You know?
It's crazy. It blew up.
It's crazy, dude.
It kind of overnight, it blew up. But
the nice thing was I had a 20-hour drive, so I got to listen to all of it, which was great.
That's
right. It was really cool. I
Great.
had a lot of fun.
You mentioned that. That's perfect for, road trips.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff to listen to.
Absolutely.
But yeah, overnight, it just kind of blew up. And I've just been talking to people that know more than I do about this stuff and getting a lot of good advice. And we're just going to keep punching away and doing our thing, and it's just going to keep getting more popular. I saw today, actually, this morning on Twitter, the gentleman from the UK who's got a huge podcast sent me a shout out. He just put this big list of here's some of the shows I listen to and enjoy, and put a link into all our pages and put it up, and one of mine was on there.
It's awesome.
Too. It's the UFO Chronicles. It's pretty awesome. If you ever get a chance to check it out,
I've listened to all of them. My favorite one was the Carolina one. That was
that's let's start there. Let's talk about some of our episodes we did this year and just briefly go over them. So the first episode was about North Hudson Park and the Stonehenge incidents in 1975, where basically a gentleman named George Obarski witnessed a UFO, fly past his car shut down, his radio quit, and all the classic stuff, right? And landed in the North Hudson Park, right across from the Stonehenge apartments.
Right.
This thing allegedly landed. These beings got out, started taking soil samples, running around doing stuff, and got back in the ship and flew away. And if it were just him saying that stuff, it would have been kind of crazy. He may have been labeled crazy himself, but doormen saw it. Other individuals, other doormen on different days saw it. People, walking past the park saw things on different days. And I've actually just recently got some reports about this is still going on. People are in this area are still seeing weird stuff in this area. So one of the things I want to do,
the area that it happened at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in North Hudson Park, because it's right on the Hudson River, right across from Manhattan. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I want to do in 2020 is to get back there and actually maybe get some people interviewed about some of the things they've witnessed, currently that's still going on.
I want to go just because I want to meet the Sniffing Man.
The Sniffing Man, if he shows up again.
We got to prepare somehow mentally to be able to actually ask him some questions. Because you guys said you weren't able to say anything, right? Really?
I understand that. Yeah, but this is supposedly a common thing with the phenomenon. When you're approached by these weird beings, people, or people that look like people, or they're not people, I don't know. But you're just kind of dumbfounded. People that are confronted by the Men in Black, they report the same thing. They can't talk. Mm-hmm. They can't react. Their conscious brain shuts down, and they're just kind of at these guys' mercy. I don't know. I'm not saying that's what happened. That's
what I'm saying, though. I think we need an intensive training program because the questions we could ask, I feel like would be awesome.
I just got to close this window.
I really think. I want to be there. There's so many things I want to know about the Sniffing Man.
Yeah. That was
know.
weird. The sniffing man. Well, you know what? We're when he came up to us and when he was looking at us, we were just like, we didn't know what to do. We were like,
we were dumbstruck.
we're like, why are you?
The sniffing man needs a graphic novel.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to be in Justin's next book. He's going to do a
Nice.
chapter on the sniffing man, and Justin said he wants to join us for the next trip up there, so that we can maybe flag some people down and interview some people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then TJ, you should go too.
I want to go.
Yeah.
I want to train.
I
It's
know.
going to become
He
part of my
needs to
martial arts
go.
training is how do I not freak out and ask the questions I want to ask. And it'll be totally thing. Like when I was a kid and I went and saw Daisy Duke, Catherine Bach. I was so
Oh,
prepared.
yeah.
I was like 8 and I was going to kiss her. I was. And then I got up there and I was just nothing. So I'm a big talker, but when I get to the sniffing man's presence, I'm just going to be like with Catherine Bach. Like I'm not going to say
Right,
It
anything.
could happen. Could happen.
You don't know.
I got Catherine blocked by the sniffing man. I couldn't.
did.
I couldn't say a thing. I couldn't
Me
move.
too. I was like,
I couldn't even look at you. We were sitting right next to each other. I couldn't even look at you.
well, because we were looking at him and trying to figure out what the
Yeah.
fuck. Oh, what was he doing? Because it was like, well, it didn't make any sense, and we're like, what are you doing? And then he was gone before we could even speak.
Yeah, and it wasn't until he left the area that we
Yeah.
both finally turned to each other and we're like, "What the fuck was that? What just happened there?"
I think he was sniffing Mike, not me. But anyway,
He was sniffing me for sure because
Yeah.
he walked right up past you,
Yeah.
right in front of me, and started just.
he turned and looked at me and you, and then he went closer to you, and then he was like, and then he was gone, and we're like, what
just
the f was that?
Sniffing me like an animal, and I was like,
It was weird.
It's really. I feel like there's definitely times when you're confronted with some things that are
Yeah.
outside of our normal,
yeah,
reality paradigms that you like.
that's at least what happened.
Yeah.
It's at least that.
Mm.
Yeah, but I mean,
I had a professor in college who was talking about he was up in Alaska and they were talking about this talking about like two worldviews colliding, and they were talking about these scientists. They come up with this I'll try to make it short, this conservation program for the caribou, and they brought up their program, and they brought up this native elder named Paul John, and they said, what do you think of our caribou conservation thing? And he's like, I think it's really good, but we need to whisper because we found from experience that when the caribou can hear us, and if they don't like this plan, they're just gonna leave, right? And so,
wow.
all of these scientists and everybody in this room, like there was Calvin was in the room and he said there was like a moment of silence, and then everybody just started talking as if he hadn't said anything because it was just so far out of the their realm of stuff, and I think it's in some way a similar kind of when you're confronted with something that's so far outside of your, like the sniffing man.
Yeah.
So for sure, we want to get back up there and
I totally want to go, by the way. I don't know
and poke around
Yeah.
and see. And I would like to actually get some doormen, interviewed on the spot. I don't know if they'll be willing to talk to us or not, but I mean, I want to try. See because if anyone has seen anything in that area, these people that are on duty all night, around the clock, they're outside walking around the apartments.
Are they security guys? Do they still have them, or is it like a legit doorman?
It's like an actual doorman / like security. So they're walking the perimeter. They're outside. They're watching the doors. They're watching the cameras. If anyone has seen anything weird in the area, if it's happening, you'd think it would be them. But I heard that people that live in those apartments they'll be sitting out on their little balcony, sipping coffee in the morning, and they'll just see some weird UFO fly past them, going up and down the Hudson River. So I don't know if it's true or not, but
Yeah, so hopefully people will talk to us, because we didn't really look into that.
yeah, we didn't get into that, but we did actually have that weird thing where we were driving George's same route, because I had the actual case report in my hand, and we were following his same route up and down this road, where he confronted this thing, and right in the exact same spot, where his radio went out. We were driving her car, and we had the GPS on, which was plugged into the car.
So we had our cell phone.
It was plugged into our cell phone, right? But for the GPS,
Mm-hmm.
but it was coming through the speakers of the car. So the audio for the GPS we heard through the speakers.
Right.
We get to the exact same spot where George had his radio go dead and all this stuff going crazy. And simultaneously, we start hearing all the static come through the radio, through the speakers.
Right.
And the screen on the GPS on her phone
Blinked
started
like
flashing
4
and
times.
blinking in and out.
In and out, in and out, in and out.
I just stopped and looked at her. I was like, holy shit, this is happening. Because it was the exact same spot where he saw this thing and this stuff happened. Now, I went afterwards, we walked around, I took EMF readings and stuff.
And we said, let's try it again.
Nothing anomalous showed up on any readings.
And then we drove again, and it didn't happen.
We tried to recreate it again with the radio on, and came around, nothing happened. So, I don't know. It's just odd that it happened in the same exact spot, and that, you know, according to the case report where this took place. It's just weird.
Mm-hmm. Really weird.
Yeah. So definitely we want to get back up there.
Yeah.
That's the strange thing too, because like what does that even mean? Like, say all those accounts are true, right? You'd think that like the radio stuff was caused by whatever that thing was that was there,
right?
So, but if it's not there anymore, like, why would it still happen now?
Exactly.
Like, is there some kind of residue thing happening, or you know, it's really weird, or is there something that's there regardless of whatever? Yeah, it's interesting. And
then you wonder if, so you would have to reach out and say, well, how many people have has this happened to their car to where, you know, you heard the white noise?
Well, and if you were thinking about it, you probably wouldn't even notice. Like, you know.
That's true. So, you wouldn't make note of it if it was just something you didn't think was significant.
Right. And it was really but it was really noticeable that day.
Yeah, maybe that, like, if I was just driving, you know, down Range Road on McGuire or Fort Dix or something, like, and my radio did that, like, you just wouldn't think anything about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
That could be happening to a million people in the same spot, but no one's making note of it because they don't think it's significant. So
right,
yeah.
True. Or was there something there we just didn't see? It was checking us out because we were there checking it out. We just didn't happen to see it because the full spectrum camera that I brought with me suddenly went dead and died on me.
So that was weird. Yeah,
I don't know. Because I was there taking snapshots of the sky all around. With a full spectrum camera, thinking like, if there's anything there, like a full spectrum camera, if anything, should pick it up. You know, in broad daylight, it was sunny, lots of light.
Is this before or after the sniffing man?
This was before the sniffing man.
Okay.
It's before. It was after we did the little drive-through. We got out, we walked around the whole park, took a bunch of pictures. Then we would walk down to the lake, and we're just taking a break from doing stuff, and just taking a break and just sitting there. We weren't even doing anything.
Yeah.
Sitting down there next to the lake on these two park benches, and that's when the sniffing dude walked up.
That ruins my theory. I was going to say maybe you had some kind of sniffing man
but he was
residue on you.
He was bent over, and he was walking. He was and he was young, and he was and it was so weird. I don't even know.
And he was an Asian gentleman. I'm going to say maybe Indonesian.
Yeah.
Looking, but and that's a lot of reports.
I think either Japan or Chinese. I think he was more of that than.
It was hard to nail down because it just happened so quick.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of reports that John Keels reported of men in black, and they were Asian. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's connected or not, but
weird.
Black shirt on.
Black shirt. I don't know. Actually, I'm agreeing with you. I wasn't there, so I don't know about the black shirt.
I don't know. I wish I had answers. That's how the phenomenon works. It doesn't.
That's why we can't get answers, because we can't talk to the sniffing man.
I think the sniffing man.
If we can, like I said, we got to train. I don't know. If you can maybe act like the sniffing man, and we'll try to ask questions.
Exactly.
Try and get in his head.
Recreate the scene.
Yeah, recreate it so that we're ready when it happens, so we can be "Hey, buddy."
Yeah, I don't know.
I want to find out what his name is.
Yeah.
I think his name is Charles.
Be like, yo, what are you doing? Why are you sniffing?
Yeah.
I don't know. What?
Or what do you smell? Maybe, because that's the thing. He probably knows something from what we smell like. We'll get some awesome answers.
Maybe Mike smells like something he's not familiar with.
Yeah.
Because Mike could be an alien.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because you had issues. I'm just saying, you don't know.
Yeah. All we can do is speculate because he wasn't talking.
No, he sniffed you specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he kind of
dude, I remember the pet stores when we were kids.
He kind of ran off.
Something going on there. We used to go in the pet stores and the animals, Mike would go up to the cage and the animals would freak out. It was kind of terrifying.
That used to happen all the time.
When he was sleeping, I would try to look on his head for see if there's a little 666 on there.
or the little chips in his.
We've known each other a long time, so.
I see it's weird triangles tattooed in my head or something.
I didn't find any.
That's a good thing.
And I never did a more thorough search just so you could sleep.
Yeah.
That's good news.
Just the hair.
Never went past here.
It would have been easier today.
True. True.
Anyway.
With the bald head. So that was episode 1. Episode 2, of course, was Apocalypse. That's when you were here last.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Where we talked about just all the different ways that our life could end in a moment.
You never know.
And we realized there's a lot.
And there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot there's a few that we didn't think of or mention. And as, for one example, would be like Trump, assassinating Iranian officials and
World War III.
starting World War III is one option.
Could happen.
Climate change, nuclear war, megavirus, asteroid, solar flare. What else do we have? There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I think that was most of them.
All the above.
Super
yeah.
plague.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's been a giant plague in every one of the 20 years since like 1622.
Oh, wow.
1620, 1720, 1820, 1920. There was like a major plague.
Oh, yeah,
that's
holy shit.
just to bring this up to a more
Yeah,
optimistic
yeah.
note. Sorry.
Okay.
So then the next one would be
Now. Now.
2020.
Happy 2020, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we don't get nuked, we're probably going to get some weird disease.
Probably gonna
and
get a
die.
weird plague.
Or go to war or something.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It could be a combination of those things.
Could be.
Oh, no. That'd be awful.
Oh.
You just don't know. You don't.
You never
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. So, and then we talked. One of my favorite episodes was episode 4, titled "Believe," which was
That was a good one.
our the first time that Beth and I worked together, and where I saw her abilities as a medium actually, where I was given the opportunity to like prove that there was really something to that, because before that I really didn't believe it, and so that was cool.
Yeah.
We
That's a good thing.
we talked about I had a solo episode. I talked about paranormal research and techniques and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We spoke to Amanda Tyson about contact with aliens and all these other some conspiracy theories about aliens and child abduction and all this kind of stuff like that. Which some of that stuff is happening. Like there's definitely a human trafficking ring going on.
Oh, yeah. Awful.
And there seems to be really high people up involved in that. And, the whole Epstein thing happened and no one thinks that guy killed himself. He was connected to all of those people. A lot of those people anyway. The Clintons, the Trumps.
Yeah.
A lot of people in intelligence and the government. He's all of a sudden, quote unquote, commit suicide in prison and now he can't tell any tales. So that's pretty crazy.
Right.
That was my thing on it though. It's like because we got a friend. His wife is in corrections, and like she did say, almost every one of those guys who gets caught for that stuff kills himself though within the first year. Like for me, the stuff that seems weird is like the fact. Like I don't doubt necessarily that they kind of let him do it, but like some of the big conspiracy stuff with that is just I feel a little off the rocker. But like those guys were definitely lax in their jobs at least.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I wasn't surprised the fact that guy. In his giant fall from grace. Like, it wouldn't surprise me or be unreasonable that he would kill himself.
Yeah, it definitely isn't.
Yeah.
There's just a lot
and the guards all took his sleeping pill and just let it happen.
and all the cameras were just broken.
Come on. Yeah.
There's some details in there. If you add them up, it's like, that seems pretty hokey. But, and then, so then we did the Hoskins house, I believe, episode. And then I had my conversation with Garrick and his terrifying story about his haunting in South Carolina. If there's any listeners out there right now that has not heard that episode, like please go back.
Which one was that?
And listen to that. The Carolina Terror.
Yeah, that was definitely
episode 5.
I definitely fell for that guy.
Holy shit! Just incredible. Like he's literally physically altered from from what happened to him there. It's so crazy. I mean, it's an important part of the paranormal sometimes to talk about, the super dark shit that a lot of people don't want to talk about, and that's a perfect example of somebody that was literally terrorized.
Yeah.
Which sometimes happens. There's a lot of theories as to why, but
I think that was for me too. Is the thing is he even like on the show with you was trying to explain it away.
Yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
it'd be simpler. That's what I said. I think I've talked to you about that. Like the episode, like the thing I liked about the show Ghost Hunters was the fact that most of the time they didn't find anything.
Yeah.
So they were like, and then you have other shows where like they like desperately want to find something so bad, you know?
Yeah.
And that was the thing. And like that show, whether or not they staged it just perfectly or whatever, but like when they found something, you believed them because
Yeah.
most of the time they were trying to not. And that was the thing with that guy. Like it sounds like throughout the whole course of his ordeal, he was like, okay, I'm crazy. I'm just going to drink a lot because then I don't see
Yeah.
these weird little red demon in my room.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you mentioned that because that was something that jumped out at me, is because a lot of people they'll jump to if they're a debunker and they're not willing to believe anything, the first thing you jump to is, oh well, you were on drugs or you were drunk or blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that jumped out at me is he was saying when he drank, this stuff didn't happen. So it like deadened his senses enough where he didn't notice it or it stopped happening. Either way,
Yeah.
it gave him a reprieve from it, but to just get wasted and just pass out because he would not notice this stuff. That's something that jumped out at me, and for sure, yeah. The entire time he's even as he's telling the story, he's explaining as he's went along. He's trying to disprove it to himself, and he was trying to find alternate explanations all along the way, from beginning to end. It couldn't be paranormal. It had to be this or that. And he got to the end of it. He couldn't explain it away, and he tried his damnedest to do so.
It's interesting with that too, like those little beings. Like I don't know if you remember our buddy Chad, who used to tell us about like all the stories from like the Philippines.
Yeah.
I don't know how much faith I put in his stuff or whatever,
Well,
but when I was down at the Cherokee Reservation, they talked about like the little people of the woods. You ever hear about that?
Yes.
It's kind of like they're sort of like leprechauns and stuff. And they had two friends of mine down on the reservation. This guy got lost in the woods, and they had this giant manhunt for this guy, and couldn't find him. Right, and my buddies Davey and George were on this like hunt, and they had searched all around, and gave it up. You know, and this guy showed back up, and they're like, "Well, where were you?" He's like, "Dude, I was partying with the little people. Like they took me in, they were feeding me all this kind of stuff, and all the elders were like, you need to shut up,
Yeah.
because you don't talk about this, right?"
Yeah.
So the guy disappeared again. Right? And they, again, went hunting for him, and they came back, and they found his body without like any explanation between these two trunks of these trees that my two buddies swear, like the day before, they went looking right through there, like in that spot. And then the next day, he was there. But and all the old people on the reservation are like, yeah, that's, they're just like, it's just true. Like it's just the fact. There's like these... And this guy, you're not supposed to talk about that stuff. And that's the same thing like with stories in Ireland and stuff. When you like get invited to these big feasts, like that's not for public consumption.
Yeah, you can't talk about it. Yeah, that's one of the things I put in my book. If somebody has that that same sort of episode with little people, and he mentions it, and he disappears, and we find him dead a couple days later.
Our one buddy said like, because he would go out. He would go like 50 miles to the woods, like gathering like wild onions and stuff. And he said he's seen little footprints out there, like in the deep mountains of Carolina and stuff.
Wow,
it's interesting stuff. More things in heaven and earth than are jumped out in your philosophy.
That's right.
Ratio.
I have seen something in the woods I can't explain. That, and Beth was there, also saw it. I saw it, stopped dead in my tracks, stared at it, watched it disappear, and then she stopped and saw what I was looking at, and she said, "Yeah, you saw him too?" And I said, "Tell me what I saw. And tell me what you saw," I said. And then she described to me exactly what I saw without me telling her.
that was crazy. Yeah,
Well,
It looked like a fucking hobbit.
yeah,
It was like 2.5, 3 feet tall.
right, like this big.
Little suit, like green and gray.
Yeah.
Like maybe some like yellowish green, like little suit,
I think you're okay to talk about it because you weren't like at the party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah.
yeah.
We were just walking on the trail, and it was in Hainesport, right down the road, Long Bridge Park.
Long Bridge Park.
Short, crop, like curly hair. I mean, fucking hobbit, 100%. Like the dudes you see in the movie. It's exactly
that
what
was
we saw.
weird. Yeah.
He was there for a second, and as soon as I looked at it, poof. And we both she saw me just stop and like start staring.
I'm like, you
And she's
saw
like,
him,
"Oh,
didn't you?"
you see him too?"
It's really weird. Like there's Yeah, like, you know, and as you get more, like, we were talking earlier about, like, you know, we saw that ghost at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair.
Yeah.
Once we knew that guy was dead, we couldn't see him anymore.
That's a
like
good.
our
Why don't you
rational-
tell that? Why don't you tell that story now?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Because that's something that's a phenomenon that we come across investigating all the time.
So,
Yeah.
I used to work at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair, and I was involved in a singing group. And we did anybody who's been there, like when you go in the front gate, there's a gazebo right there. And if you go around the corner, there was like a spot by a tree where this guy used to sell anoles, baby dragons, he would call them. And my interaction with him for years, because I played Francis Drake for 3 years, and they called Drake El Draco. Mm-hmm. So I would walk by him and say like, "Oh, you've got baby dragons. They call me El Draco. Like, buy a dragon from this guy." Yeah. Right? So on Saturday, this one day at fair, I saw him. Yeah. There was a family right there, man and his wife and their kid. I don't remember if it's a boy or a girl, but they had a kid with them, probably like 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. And they're all looking at me, and I walked by, and the guy was standing there with the anoles, and I said, "Oh, you should buy a baby dragon," you know, blah, blah, blah. Did the same thing I did. Walked over, did my show. Okay, that's Saturday. Sunday, I walked by that spot, and there's a picture of that guy on the tree. Okay? And so I go over to do my singing group thing, and one of the girls there, I said, "Oh, why is there a picture of a Knoll guy on the tree?" And she goes, "Oh, well, because he died. He had, like, heart disease and stuff." I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, you know, "Well, when? Oh my God," you know, and she's like, "Oh yeah, it was like February or something." And I'm like, "Nah, stop." I'm like, "I just saw him yesterday at the show." And she's like, "Yeah, no, he died in February." And I'm like, as clear as like I see you two guys, like he was there.
And this is over the summer, right?
Yeah, this is in the summer. The Ren Fair runs August to October, so it was sometime in that range. And I thought she was joking around, you know, thinking it's like a poor taste joke. But I went down to the booth that the guy was out of, and they told me, they're like, "Yeah, he died in February of like a massive heart attack and stuff." And they said, "But you know, you're not the only. Like a lot of people have seen him. You know, like my friend Sherry who sells drums. Wow. Every morning he would come by and talk to her about her husband who was in Colorado or Arizona, where she was, and she had that interaction with him. You know,
I have one of her drums right over there.
What's that?
I have one of her drums.
Yeah.
Right over
Oh
there.
yeah. No, she's awesome. Yeah. But that was the thing, and I don't think there's any shot that I would ever see him again because I know he's dead now. So like my rational brain has like wrapped around that. And it was the same thing with her. Like before she realized he was dead, she saw him. And everybody who saw him, it was before we knew that he had died. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right. So you're still coming at it at that situation with rapport that he's still there. Mm-hmm. And so he was there.
That's amazing. So when you saw him, he was like us. You saw this. And
I just saw him. Yeah, like I saw him every day. And I told Mike earlier, like, when I think back about it, and this is stuff I can't because this is, you know, years ago now. But I kind of remember, like, that family looking weird at me. You know? So did they not see him? And I was just talking about this thing that was incomprehensible to them, you know? Or did they see him too? Or whatever. But it was really crazy. It was really weird. That is like, because I like to be skeptical about things and like there's like absolute proof. But that's the one time I'm like, yeah,
you had proof that day.
I saw a ghost that day. Like,
yeah,
I saw that guy as clearly as I see you guys right now.
But you're open to everything, so that's a good thing, you know. And and because he loved what he did, that's why you got to see him. Right, he showed himself.
Well, and my friends and I, a couple of friends of mine, and I went out that night because after hours they keep the bar open and all this kind of stuff. We all hang out. So we're like, well, let's go to that spot. And as we were standing there in the dark by this, I'm like, we're not going to see him now because this isn't the time that he haunts that spot. The time he was there is when the fair's open and all those people are there. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, all that other sort of energy poured into that situation.
That's amazing.
That's good.
It was. It was. I was.
Yeah.
And I flat out did not believe that girl when she told me that he was dead. I was like, shut up. Like, I just saw him yesterday. like, you know, same interaction, talked to him.
That's amazing.
He never responded. Like, Sherry, she would talk to him every morning. So she actually talked to him. But when I would do that with him, he would kind of like nod and shake his head. Like, happy that I was like, because I was helping him sell his stuff.
Wow.
You know? Yeah. He never really said much to me ever. So that day he didn't either. He just did the same thing. He gave me that look. His eyes looked at me just like usual. Wow. Same smile. Just shook his head. You know, his little dragons, little knolls on his hand. It was intense.
Amazing.
Yeah. We were just talking about this earlier. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder, like, it, you know, was the residue of his spirit there, and you just happened to be there and witness it because it was in context for when that would take place normally, or did you just expect him to be there because you had that interaction with him so many times, and so you manifested him for yourself there, and it would explain why the people are looking at you like, what the hell are you talking about? Because they didn't see it, only you saw it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too. Like, it could have been a psychological thing, too. Like, I could have, every time for years walking past there, he would be there.
Yeah.
So
but for you to physically feel, to see that, I just think it was a place he loved. He loved what he did, and it was a place where he loved to go, and that he was showing himself to you because you loved it also. So that's what I feel like. I just feel like it's like when they come back to the houses.
Well, for me, philosophically, like, because I don't, I think about the differences between, like, the spiritual and the practical, whatever. Like, I absolutely saw him there. And to me, it doesn't really matter whether it was a projection from me or if there was, like, actually this. Because to me, I don't think it's really much different.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
I absolutely physically saw him standing there.
Yeah.
And to, like, I don't think there's much difference really between whether or not it was a projection from my mind or, because I think all that stuff's connected,
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's like Dumbledore said to Harry Potter, when he, at the very end, when he dies briefly, comes back, he says to Dumbledore, like, is this real? Is this real or is this all happening in my head? And he says, like, Harry, what's the difference?
Yeah, like it was absolutely real to me, and nobody else could have had that experience with him because that whole like little interaction we had was just our interaction.
Yeah, exactly.
And the same thing, like I wouldn't have seen him in the morning by Sherry's booth asking about how her husband was,
because that was their thing.
She's part of that,
right?
Yeah.
And
that's the thing for me that gives it a little more credence that there's like some kind of thing, outside of us, is because a lot of people saw him,
right? Exactly.
Yeah. And same kind of thing when I talked to Sherry about it, she was like, "Yeah," and you could see she was a little like, she's like, "Yeah, dude, I talked to him in the morning,
And what did he say to her?
Same stuff. Asked her how her husband was doing. Same conversation she had. He would go to get his coffee,
and he was dead. I mean, like, was, wow.
But she didn't know he was dead because that was the thing I was saying originally in this is, we kind of have a shared worldview, and in our worldview, that stuff's not supposed to happen. So it's got to really break through. There was a guy, David Abram, who went and studied magic in all these places all over the world. And he said what he found was when he would go to like these little islands in the Philippines or wherever he was, the stuff like worked really, really well. Yeah, and then he'd come back here and try to do it again. And it didn't because, the psychology of the place is different.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which makes sense.
I have a high school friend, his name was David Abrams, that died. So weird you said that.
Yeah, Abram. This guy was Abram. There's like one Abram in this one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. There's another David Abrams, I think, is a writer too. But this David Abram is the guy who wrote a lot about. He went and studied magic with a lot of like, hunter-gatherer tribes and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Actually, we're gonna we're gonna go ahead and take a break, and then after we come back from this break, we're gonna continue our year in review,
our journey through 2019.
Our journey, and we're back.
Nobody said one that time.
Nobody said one.
I wasn't allowed.
You're not supposed to.
You're learning.
I'm learning.
I just know. I don't know why. I just know you're not supposed to say one. I don't know the reason why though.
I know. I think it's the most thing. Like people who are in like any kind of stuff like that. Like it's not like they really know. It's just like that's what somebody did. You know.
Yeah. It was talking about the countdown from 3, 2, 1. You don't say one. I'm not sure why you don't.
Well, you're trying not to. You don't want to. It's easier to do your cuts and stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm making this up. I don't know.
Yeah. That sounds good. I have no idea. I
think that is why, but I
think it is why too. And I leave space in the beginning, just like I said before, just so I can use that for noise reduction, so I can cut out any background humming or whatever.
Interesting.
But so where did we leave off?
We're talking about
your ghost story.
Ghost story and the how your rationality and our common worldview colors your perception and ability to see things. Actually, in the off time, we were talking about how being around investigations and stuff kind of puts you in the mindset to be able to see things maybe more.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of move into that.
Yeah. What are your feelings on that, Beth? Because we know we've had that conversation
about
that a lot. Just about how if you I started, and I mentioned this in a past episode, where I wanted to investigate the paranormal, but from a strictly tech point of view. I was into the equipment. And capturing evidence and proving or disproving stuff with data, blah blah blah. I didn't believe in psychics and all that stuff. I almost didn't join the group that we ended up joining because I found out they did use psychics and also equipment. They used everything, and I was like, oh, that's hokey. Come on, that's bullshit. But then once I started hanging out with you and some other psychics and mediums and stuff like that, and started investigating and put myself in that context, the more I was around it, the more I was starting to sense things, feel things. Like I'd be in a room, just for one quick example, and she would be witnessing a spirit walk in, and she could describe what they look like. It's a male, it's a female. What are they wearing? Judge maybe time period based on their clothing, what they're doing there, their temperament, blah, 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 right? I wouldn't be able to do any of that, but I would feel a change in the environment. I would feel like a shift in the air. Like, all of a sudden start to feel weird, dizzy, and I'd be like, oh, what the heck is he? And then she'd be like, well, the spirit just walked in the room. Hey, did you feel that? I'm like, yeah, I felt weird. So I wouldn't exactly be at the level where I could go that deep, but I would feel a change in the environment, and then sometimes would verify it with our equipment. Like I would get an EMS spike, and I'd feel weird at the same time, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Have you ever been around people who are like fakes, though?
Fakes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that? How's that experience for you?
Okay, so the main reason why I went into the paranormal, I started, I guess because everything on TV, and I was interested in the paranormal and ghost investigations and that, and then I've always, since I was about 4 years old, have seen spirit. But back then, I was told, I saw my great-grandfather, and he was laying on the couch. I described him, and he died before I was born.
Yeah.
So then, back then, they're like, oh, you're too sensitive. Go upstairs. Why are you crying? Why are you doing this? And I had no idea.
And no one else saw what you were seeing, so they were like, nah, there's nobody there.
And because of social media, it helped bring everything out, So then I found a mentor who's like, okay, well, you can do this. Why aren't you doing this? And then to build up my self-confidence and self-esteem, I was like, okay, I took psychic development classes. And she was her name is Marty Haynes. She's my mentor, and she was part of a paranormal investigation group. And I was like, I'm thinking about joining it. And she's like, yeah, because a lot of times, because when you're in a paranormal group, most of the time when you're investigating, you spent most of the time in the dark for hours, and you may not get nothing. But you use your other senses, so which helps you to open up to the divine to help. If you have abilities, if you're sensitive to spirit, this will help you because you're using all your other senses. So that's how I got involved.
You're meaning like by sitting in the dark, you're not using your sight.
Dark.
Your sight is kind of like out of the question.
Yeah, what I'm feeling and sensing.
Right.
So that's why I got involved. So, and sometimes there's psychic or mediums wannabe. So you'll be on an investigation. They'll say, somebody's right next to you. I see this, and this, and I'll be like, what are you talking about?
Okay, yeah, because we went to we were in Vermont, and our friend Eileen had this guy she went to, and we went and got like a reading from him, and he was telling me all kinds of stuff about like things that just weren't true. And he was also a really bad con man because I was married to Elise at the time, and he was like reading her about her relationship, and she was like actively trying to put her wedding ring out there. And he was like, oh, I think you're going to meet someone, right? But he was a guy who, if you agreed with him, he was like, you're an old soul. You are and it was just clearly like real bad. So I wonder for somebody who like actually has experiences, like, what is that like for you to be in the presence of somebody who you just clearly know? And what do you do? Like,
great question.
You know me. Mike knows I don't like confrontation. I don't like, anything like that. So I would either walk away or not say anything because I'm not going to be like, because they say like, and I know other mediums feel and sense and different things in other mediums. So I would just be like, okay, I would just sit there and be like, I wouldn't say anything, but I know that, all right, well, I'm not feeling that. I'm not sensing that. So I'm not, I don't know, if it's, yeah. So that's how I deal with it. I mean, when I started doing this, I mean, even though I've been sensitive my whole life, I was like, well, if I'm going to do this work, I believe in my angel guides and spirit guides. I said, I need to be 100% real or I can't do this. Because I wear, and you both probably know, I wear my heart on my sleeve. And I just, I'm like, people know everything about me. I just like blurb it out. So I can never hide anything. I can never, I'm not fake. I can't do that because everyone would know. I can't lie. I just can't do that. So yeah, so that's...
Yeah, we've...
I just sitting here with you, it made me think about that. Because I remember being with that guy and being like, wow, this is...
Yeah,
really
and that was until I met her and started hanging around all these other people that did this stuff, like for a living. That's what I was exposed to. Just charlatans. There's a lot of them out there, let's be honest.
Yeah,
I mean,
is.
In every
there
field.
Is. I agree. Yeah.
And that's what I was exposed to. And so when I joined this group and they were like, oh, they use psychics, I'm like, oh, that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Because I'd never met a legitimate medium or a psychic. Never met anyone that really impressed me where I said, wow, that person's really doing something. Now, on a random Tuesday, I've seen her blow somebody's brain up, like right in front of me, where she's talking about somebody who died, referencing some piece of jewelry that they liked that a certain person is wearing or isn't wearing that should be wearing, and stuff that there's no way she knows, that only the person she's talking to and the person who's dead knows. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like evidential mediumship.
That's why I was wondering about like being like for you, where you're actually in there, like what is it like? Because I was just wondering, I'm like, oh wow, because I get that way like martial arts wise, like because I'll talk to people who like
you'll know who's a bullshitter and
no, I know who the bullshitters are,
and
they say stuff and I'm like, oh my god, but you got to sit there through the conversation because I'm also like you, like I don't want to make
you're a nice guy,
like, and I'm not gonna, but like I've had a lot of conversations with people where I'm like, wow, I gotta get this is you clearly have no idea, you couldn't inflate your way out of a paper bag. And so I was just curious about that. So it's actually
same thing. I do the same thing.
It's the same thing. And we've been in a lot of cases where it depends. Like if it's something, an event or an investigation that we're running, you have more sort of leeway to kind of call bullshit on stuff. But then again, you have most of the time public there, and no one should call anyone out in front of other people, in front of the public. You know what I mean? Do it off to the side if you want.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot of times where we're on a case where we're not running it. We're just kind of guests and we're just doing our thing. And someone will claim something or talk about something or talk about some equipment activation and try to make some kind of claim about it. And we'll just look at each other like, ugh, and then just walk the other way. Like, I let you handle that. We're going over here,
Yeah.
Because, because not only are there people that are just not legitimately gifted with certain stuff, but there's people that will take certain pieces of information and just run with it. Mm-hmm. Whereas you could sit there being a logical person and come to 8 other conclusions.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah, like I said, that guy was just bad at it. Because like I've always had this like memory of like drowning, And I said something to him about because he was like apparently like he did a lot of past life regression stuff or whatever and talked. Eileen. It's Eileen.
Yeah.
And but he said, I told him about that, I was like, yeah, okay, and whatever. He's like, yes, you were a sea captain, and you died at sea, and it was a stormy, stormy night. And I'm like, you didn't even pick up on the whole, like, I said, like, I saw sunbeams coming through the water.
Yeah.
And, like, he just wasn't, so I don't even know, I think he probably believed his hype, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he, like I said, he didn't pick up on the fact that Elise had a wedding ring on. He didn't pick up on the thing that I told him. Like, I was like, I remember falling in the water, and I see the bubbles, and I see the sunlight coming through, and the waves, And he turned that into, like, a story about the night, And it wasn't saying it was a different story. He's like, oh, yes, you did drown. You were a sea captain, and you fell off the ship. It was a stormy, dark night. And I'm like, oh, wow, you didn't even
After you said...
You're not even a good con man. Like,
And I'm one that, if if the energy don't work, I'll be like, you know what? Here's your money. It's not working. I'm not going to con anybody. You know me.
Exactly.
I can't make anything up.
To go a step further than that, there's even been times where you've given somebody a mind-blowing reading and given them everything they came there to hear and more, and still gave them their money back because some voice from above said, this person can't afford this, give them their money back. And I've seen it happen, you just give them their money back.
Yeah, I don't charge them. Yeah.
Sometimes you just don't because you're told not to by whatever forces are out there.
I mean, I'm genuine, so I think that
Yeah, you're not out. You're not going to bullshit anybody. You couldn't.
I couldn't. I'd be like, all
Lots of people think they can. Some people can.
Well,
Yeah, no, there are people who are really good con men out there too. This guy was not one of them. You know?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, you could do it in a more convincing fashion.
Yeah.
You know? I know people who are like performer mentalists.
Yeah.
You know, who are not in any way psychic, but they do whole shows where they read you and figure out stuff that there's, and it's what they do is amazing in a completely different way.
I've seen it. It's impressive.
And I don't understand it.
Yeah.
You know, like, but like I said, this guy wasn't even. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. He just didn't even. He didn't even.
It's like he wasn't even trying.
Yeah. But again, I think I really honestly think he believed it. You know, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think it's a lot of the thing too. It's like, it's like why I say, like, I like ghost hunters because they weren't trying. I feel like a lot of stuff people are so desperately want to see something. That's why all the orbs happen all the time. Like, and it's the reason why it's so cool is because it's so rare.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't happen all the time.
It don't.
And that's why, but people, you want to, and like, we want to believe in something, so they go into these places and they want us to have a ghost come up and like give them a high five,
Yeah, they want it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And
there's some people that, want that stuff so badly that they make some bad stuff happen. And we've seen that too. I mean, how many times it happened a couple times just in the last couple of years doing the Penhurst Paracon.
Yep.
Where we had a gentleman come in with, his wife and his daughter came in for a tour, and we were running like the daytime tours in the tunnels and in the basements and, in some of the buildings and stuff. And you remember this guy? He kind of, it was just Beth and I. We had a group of maybe 20 people, so we couldn't possibly follow every person because they just kind of. We told them, you're just free to roam, on this floor. So they were just kind of going their own direction, doing their own thing. And this guy kind of walked away from us, and we said in the beginning, no provoking. This is Penhurst. This was an asylum. Torture went on here. Murders went on here. Ridiculously painful deaths went on here. Don't be disrespectful. You'll be ejected. We'll throw you out. Right? We say it at the beginning of every single tour. Some people just don't listen. So this guy kind of walked away from us, got some distance between us and went into this, a room on the other end of the hallway, went into a closet, shut the door, and started provoking. Which we didn't know.
All of a sudden he comes running out.
Yeah, which we didn't know because he was, at the other end of the hallway in this room in a closet. We didn't pay any mind. We didn't hear anything. So the wife and his daughter were kind of standing in the same area by us, by the stairwell. Mm-hmm. This guy comes flying down the hallway.
I'm leaving. I got to get out. Yeah.
His eyes this big.
Like freaking out.
In terror, running past us. Blows past us, pushes past his wife and his daughter down the stairs. And we're looking at each other like, what the hell? And she goes, I don't know what the hell's problem is. They go downstairs. We wrap up the tour. We take everyone out.
Yeah.
We get back into the catwalk. And we track him down and we're like, dude, what the fuck? What are you doing? What happened? Then he told us, I went into this closet, and he didn't say provoking.
Grabbed his calf, a spirit.
But he started calling out spirit, and something grabbed him and like held onto him, scared the shit out of him.
And it was spirit because he was in a closet by himself, and something grabbed his calf and pulled, and he was like, "I'm out of here. I believe I'm out."
Just like
well, that's the thing too. Is like I feel like almost like a lot of people really want to have something happen until something happens.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
It actually probably goes back a lot to that whole like, the mindset of the place we're in. Mm-hmm. Like we want to have our worldview shaken until it gets shaken.
Yeah,
and then it's terrifying.
What the F?
Because the world just flipped on you.
Yeah.
Everything you just believed.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you just posted a meme about that. Mm-hmm. You're like, spiritual awakenings aren't,
Yeah. Aren't comfortable.
They're not comfortable, pleasant experiences most of the time. They're like pretty bad usually.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah. So then we, after the Carolina Terror episode, and I spoke to Dylan from Psionic Metaphysics who gave us these cool items that we were checking out earlier. He is actually he's since reached out and he wants to actually use some of the stuff he's designing and use it in in paranormal investigations to see if it affects the environment, like positively or negatively. Kind of interesting. I was thinking about.
Well, we can do that ourselves.
It's not this stuff. It's some different
Oh,
stuff.
nice.
He's coming up with some different stuff, and he wants to actually use that to see if it all manipulates the energy fields in different areas that are that are active or inactive, or whatever. So pretty interesting stuff. We're definitely going to have some investigators. I'm going to have Dan on. I want to have Dan and Stephanie on at some point soon. Talk to them. We're definitely going to be getting out into the field some more. Like I said, going back to North Hudson Park. I want to get back there. But, and again, if anybody listening in the New Jersey area, tri-state area, has had any bizarre activity, UFO-wise, unexplained-wise, feel free to reach out. We will we'll come help you out any way we can, confidentially, if you so choose. If you want to come on the show and share your story and handle it that way, we can do that, or both.
Yeah.
We definitely have, confidentiality is number one, first and foremost, and and we leave it up to the client. Yes, share this. Don't use my name. Okay, share the evidence, but don't say who it is. Whatever the parameters are, we leave it up to the client 100%, because the thing we want to do is help the client. We're going out to a place on Wednesday to help somebody out with some issues. So
yeah.
You have anything else, Beth?
No, yeah, that's what we do. We help people, that hear things and see things and feel things, and go out and try to help them.
Yeah.
To see what's going on in their house.
Yeah, and that's one of the main goals of the bunker is to, and it's just that vision of it I have in my head, and that's why I like the new emblem so much, is because you're going down into this bunker, into this little safe space where you're safe from outside, ridicule or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel safe in here, except like when you dance.
When I dance,
when you dance, it gets real weird.
Arms.
You should have a video. You should put up a video of that, so everybody can experience that. What happens before we come on the air?
I am a unorthodox.
He's half dinosaur.
I'm an unorthodox dancer. I'm just throw it out there.
It is unorthodox. That's a good way to put it.
Yes, and when we do this, it's free. We don't charge people.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, it's
100% free always.
We do house blessings, house cleansings, and it's all free.
Yep, investigations, just counselings with whatever. Every case is different, unique, and we don't have a set way we handle everything. We go in and whatever the case and whatever the client requires, that's what we present. So, in episode 8, we talked about. Well, I talked about the all the episodes in Brazil.
Yeah, that was
terrifying stuff for those poor people. My God. And one thing I was thinking about too. You're talking about the reports begin around in mid-50s. Could be before that. This is just when the reports came in. Through the 70s, 80s, into the 90s to like 2008, I think was one of the last reports I could find. Yeah. Again, could still be happening. I don't know. But, I mean, like, you got like a group of people in perfect health. Mm-hmm. This weird light appears in the sky, hits somebody with a beam, burns them, physically second, third degree burns on their bodies. Mm-hmm. They collapse into a coma, miscarriages. All of a sudden, they're sickly. They can't get out of bed. They're terrified to go outside at night. Their health is, and some of these people die.
Yeah.
Like, they found people dead. They have no idea what happened to them. They're just on the road, just cooked. They can't figure out what the hell happened to them.
Yeah.
There's reports. I found one since that episode aired. I found a report where a group of people witnessed a gentleman in their village come running in, terrified. Mm-hmm. Something's chasing him. Oh, Fogo, right? The fire is coming again. It chases him back to his house. He comes into his home. The people in the house, they start like popping open windows like shutters and like looking out, like where the heck is this thing? Mm-hmm. A beam comes through the window and hits him, and he falls down. And these people witness him literally melt in front of them. Within minutes, he melted. Fucking melted.
That's weird. Yeah.
So, like, what the fuck is that? Like, obviously some kind of... Is it radioactive? Is it electromagnetic? Is it...
Who knows? Paranormal.
The 3 guys on the boat. 4 guys on the boat.
I gotta read that guy's book because I want to see where the research and stuff is.
Oh yeah, I'll let you borrow it. It's an amazing book because there's so many things there. I just kind of brushed the surface with that book. I mean, there's so many reports in there. I mean, these guys were burned on the boat. You know, one of them's burned, cooked to a crisp. The guy next to him, nothing. There's no sign of fire on the boat. There's no storms in the area. No sign of lightning. No sign of fire on the boat or near the boat. Yeah. There was no sign of chemicals. You know, like sometimes in swamps, there's like, you know, poison gas. There's no sign of that. No sign of fire anywhere in the entire area. One's comatose, one's dead. They all wake up in different parts of the boat where they fell asleep. They can't explain that. They have no... One thing he points out there, too, is getting burned is one of the most painful injuries you can get inflicted on yourself. Yeah. This guy had second-degree burns. Only crossed his shoulders... down his buttock, not his shorts weren't burned, not his shorts, but the skin under the shorts burned to a crisp. Weird. But has no memory of it. How do you get burned like over half your body, but you weren't conscious at all? And everyone on the boat unconscious. Slept through the tide coming in, the boat getting picked up and jostled around. Slept through all of them getting moved around. All of them were in different parts of the boat when they went to sleep. Like.
Yeah, strange.
But the thing is, there's no witnesses that can connect a UFO to that. But still, when you look at the evidence, and the police looked at it, the gentleman who wrote the book, he went back after with two other people, looked at it again. Nobody could find any evidence of foul play. There's no drugs. There's no alcohol. and that's just one report. I mean, it's like all over the country, everywhere. And this is like, you know, you think about the bulk of these reports were from the 70s. Yeah. In remote areas of Brazil, where they're out in the middle of nowhere. There's no internet. They're not running around thinking, oh my God, UFOs or blah, blah. Like, and you can even see in the reports, when they first initially see these lights, until it developed this reputation for like burning people and shit. Report after report, you hear like the guy sees the lights. Oh, he thinks it's a car on an adjacent mountain until it starts shooting around the sky. And he's like, oh, what the fuck? Another person sees lights. He thinks, oh, it's a car coming down the highway, and it's illuminating the highway. And then he gets out and he looks, and there's no cars coming. And he looks, and the whole area's illuminated. He looks up like, oh, shit. So their first thoughts aren't going to paranormal shit or UFOs. Yeah. Their first thoughts are going to, oh, it's just this or that. Like normal everyday stuff. Right. Until they're proved wrong. And it's just, the list, it's just endless. The number of reports down there. These poor people. And some of them saw people. Fucking ships, man. Humans. Yeah. Quote, humans, not Brazilians, but people. Some of them described it as, oh, they were Americans, just in black suits. Yeah. What the F? So do we have some of this shit and we're down there testing it on them? Like, oh, we'll just fly down there. It'll only take us 2 seconds to get to Brazil and back. It's weird. We'll just cook some people, like pick them up, drop them, drag them through some trees. You know, like. Yeah.
Well, they can't immigrate.
But they can't immigrate. Don't come over on a boat. We can drag you up in a tractor beam and, you know, melt your skin off. But don't you dare try to come across the southern border.
Scary.
But I couldn't get the overriding feeling after reading these reports that the people using these ships didn't really know how to use the technology, and they were kind of testing it out. Right. Because it didn't seem like they knew how to use it properly.
Yeah, like
people getting picked up and dropped and picked up
again.
If they were
all like accurate, like the things like and they had like that like hook. Yeah, you know, like wasn't working in there.
And then the hooks came down. There was like some of them were like, you know, they would get hit with the beam and they'd feel themselves are getting pulled. They would grab a tree or a fence or something, and they're holding on. They're getting pulled, and they would feel hot oil poured on them, like seemingly in an effort to get them to like out of pain, let go and.
Weird.
That's not high technology. You're pouring hot oil on somebody or snagging them with a fish hook or a net. Like, what the fuck? So there was all a matter of like apparently 0 point energy. I don't know what that is. Tractor beams down to like fish hooks. Yeah. Like.
Crazy.
Nuts.
Reminds me of that Saturday Night Live sketch with the that UFO shows up. And they're like, we are here to take over your planet. Our technology is 200 years advanced from yours in the future. We'll be back. Here's a list of all of our accomplishments. And then they show like the generals, and they look in the book, and they're like, well, what is it, General? And he's like, it looks like their technology is like 200 years behind ours. He's like, what? He's like, yeah, what about the UFO? He's like, I'm pretty sure they found it, right? And so they show up again and they've got like muskets, you know?
Jeez.
And like, you'll notice our advanced system of dirt roads. This is our weapon that shoots tiny lead balls. Like, yeah, this is our weapon that shoots tiny lead balls, 200 per minute. And they're like, all right, we've decided we're not going to take over your planet.
Yeah.
That is funny. That is the kind of stuff we'd do too. Like if we found a UFO, we'd like fly around
And just start messing with it.
Just
like,
messing with them.
Just trying to figure it out.
messing with brown people like we always do.
I guess exactly. That was what I kept thinking about. Especially when these people
Yeah.
were reported seeing, Americans around these things and inside these things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh man, we're just even with high technology, we're gonna be dicks. If that's what's going on. Again.
Yeah.
I
Don't
don't
know.
I don't have proof, but
Yep.
yeah, so that was, that's the really quick synopsis of our past episodes. But
Well, there's one you're missing.
Uh-oh.
That was the interview with you when you got the tables turned on you.
the flip the script. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
That was with Justin.
I was gonna mention that. Yeah, Justin just took over the show and
Yeah.
interviewed me. Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I like that. Well, we might do something like that again. The flip might get the script may get flipped on maybe Beth at some point.
Oh.
TJ.
It's going to be one giant, marketing thing. Like, please come to the Jersey Renaissance Fair, and I got a martial arts school. Support my GoFundMe. It's like, could you talk about, your philosophy? No, just please. I need to pay my rent.
Just please go to www.
That'd be awesome. Oh, man.
But actually, no. I want to close. That's pretty much our year in review. We're going to be doing lots of stuff for 2020, so just keep an eye out. We're going to be.
It's great to be back, man. It's good to hang out with you guys again.
Yeah, totally, 100%. We're going to be doing lots of stuff in the field. I'm going to do more stuff in the field. I'm going to get more people on mic, giving us their stories. Whatever I got to do.
You said on mic because your mic and your mic.
I mean microphone. On mic. But anyway, so. I might get thrown out of places. That's fine. But, I really want to,
That's how our career started, dude. I was so sad. Did you even talk about that? You didn't talk about that in the interview.
Well, that's what I was going to get to some of that stuff.
That's how our career started. Our career started paranormal investigating dramatically.
I took great pleasure when I finally had Grant and Steve and Tango in front of me, and I said, "Oh, good! I got you guys in front of me. I'm like, you have to hear this story. You have to hear this, man." They loved it. Grant especially was like, "Dude," he's like, "It sounds like you really dodged a bullet there." Because we never got into that place. They threw us off the property.
And he's such a nice guy.
That's probably a good thing. You didn't get there. I'm like, you're right, dude. You're probably right.
No, dude, we had all the equipment. We were ready to go.
Back when we were in high school. This is what year was this? Maybe
you're
we had to
way
be
behind
juniors.
your years.
Like 80
way ahead of your years.
Something.
Yeah.
1989.
But we we had heard about this place that our friends, next door neighbors or something, right? And their house was like this terror house in Millstone.
Like a real negative haunting. Like real bad.
So we were going to go investigate. It was great. We showed up in I think we showed up in my 81 Monte Carlo with the red Craigers.
Yep.
Pulled up, probably slid to a thing. We had like a push button cassette player recorder. That was our big equipment.
That was a piece of equipment. We had a couple cameras.
Yeah, I still have the notebook. It was like a flip notebook, and I wrote on the cover, Rutgers University Parapsychology 101. That was our credentials.
Yeah,
that was how we were gonna get in.
Did it work?
Oh yeah, we got right in.
No, it did not work at all. No. We pulled up there and rang the doorbell, and the guy came to the door, and he did all the talking. So he's like,
hey sir, how you doing? We're from Rutgers University Parapsychology, and we hear that you've had some strange experiences in this house because it wasn't their house. It was like their neighbors or something. The neighbors
right? The neighbors basically ran out there with the clothes on their back.
I have a question. Why did you target this house? What did you hear about while you're there?
No, because we heard about it in school because we're friends.
What did you hear?
We were friends with the girl who was the neighbor.
Oh, and what did she say? That it was haunted? They were experiencing things.
She said it was haunted and crazy stuff was flying off the wall. Like it was.
She said that they literally ran out with the clothes on their backs, went across the street, threw the keys at them, and just left. All the furniture, left everything in the house, and we're like, dude, we're in. Like, let's go.
Check it out.
Let's go.
Because this is a great idea.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the guy, we said, I remember we said that, like, yeah, we heard there was like some strange things, so we want to do an investigation. And the girl, like his kid, was his daughter, I guess, was there?
It was their daughter.
She's like, yeah, Dad, remember all that stuff? And he's like, shut up. He's like, you get off my property, I'm calling the cops. And so
I'm sick of you people. Because apparently there was a lot of
So
people.
did you leave?
Caught
Like,
wind of
what
it.
oh yeah, we got in the Monte Carlo. I turned the kids, we peeled out.
Yeah, we just like took off and we're like, all
Took
right.
off.
Shit.
Was the end of our ghost hunting career.
That was, just so all of you out there in the world know, that was Mike's first investigation.
That
It was a
Well, not
rousing
re-
success.
was not really because nothing happened, but
That was our first investigation. I count it, dude.
you count.
You have to count it.
Well, we-
There's a reason you were there.
we
We came,
there?
we came equipped and we did attempt to get in.
I still got the notebook.
It's true. It's true.
I should take a picture of it. You can put it on the Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what's funny about that is, isn't it? We just kind of, I think we still did go in abandoned buildings and stuff like that, and we still did that kind of stuff. But as far as getting properties, that was really the end of our investigation career. But then until like years, fast forward a few years, Ghost Hunters comes out. He sees it first. And then just at one point just comes running, like shows up one day like, dude, you got to see this show. And like puts it on and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, oh my God, people do this professionally? Like I was
Like, we could have done it, dude. We were so ahead of our time.
we could have done it.
We could have been those guys.
We were like,
Why did we quit so easy?
I don't know. We just
We got
gave up.
chased out.
Why didn't you go to some place else or another?
Maybe those guys just had a friendly guy the first time.
Could
That's
be.
what happened.
Could be.
Yeah.
I think they, Jason and Graham were older when they started. They were like actual adults. They weren't like,
We weren't, yeah. Our voices probably hadn't
they
even
weren't
changed at the
kids.
time.
No, they didn't at all. They weren't kids, so they probably weren't just like, they were probably taken more seriously
Yeah,
than we were.
yeah.
We had the tape recorder.
You tried.
We did have a tape
You had-
recorder.
And I did pull up in the Monte Carlo. I mean,
It was
I know.
white.
it was a white Monte Carlo.
So,
I had a blue IROC blue color Monte Carlo.
really? Nice.
It was this color. See the blue?
Whoa.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
For those of you on
That's my first car.
the podcast sphere, Beth is pointing at a blue Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah, you can't actually see
It's
that.
brilliant blue.
It's a brilliant
Yeah,
blue.
you can't
It's like
see
the
it.
sky on a
Yes,
clear day
yes,
in the wintertime.
that's it.
It's for the European listeners, you might not understand what IROC blue is, but
There used to be IROC cars, and that's the color blue.
Yeah.
If you Google it,
I think it's the official car of New Jersey, isn't it? The IROC
I think so.
or the Trans Am. It's one or the other.
Why don't they think of that in Europe? Like, wow, this Beth rocks so hard. Even her color blue, I rock.
Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so the other story I wanted to get to before
Yeah.
we wrap up is our little run-in with some sort of I don't know if it's a wind spirit. I don't know if it's like if it's some sort of if it was some government
Yeah.
experimental aircraft. I don't know what the hell this was.
It was really weird.
But then this is a weird story, and then we have the book sitting in front of us now. We'll explain in a minute, but
We're going to talk about this on the show, right?
so go ahead and
Yeah.
go into the story because you
Okay.
saw this first.
Well, I didn't see
Well,
anything.
heard this first. I should
Me
say.
and our buddy Ron, who he was pretty well to do. So he had like a tennis court in his yard, and him and I were outside playing tennis in the nighttime with the lights on at the tennis court, and we started hearing something that was flying around the tennis court, and it sounded like it was maybe 15, 20 feet off the ground. The only way I can think of it is like sometimes when you hear a plane in the distance just cutting through the air and you don't hear the engines or any of the other stuff you usually hear,
Yeah.
just that kind of thing, or like wind across some paper or something like that. Circling around this tennis court to the point where him and I both were like ducking for cover, thinking some giant thing was going to land on our head.
Oh boy,
And
that's
yeah,
scary.
I think at the
Yeah.
time I
And
remember
how old were you?
I don't know.
like high school age.
High school
Oh,
age, I think.
okay.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I think
And,
I distinctly correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember you describing it to me as like picture a helicopter, but take away the engine noise.
Yeah.
So
I
just
used to
the-
describe it as like a giant mechanical like dragonfly or something. Like
Right.
it sounded big and we heard it literally circling around. What's that Def Leppard song? Where you hear the helicopter go around the speakers?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that sound, but it was, you could hear it
Right.
move around. And like I said, Ron and I both were ducking for cover, like covering our heads. I remember he ran over and tried to turn off the lights on the tennis court, and by the time he got there, it shot off in the distance.
Yeah.
Really weird. We were both like, what the hell just happened? You know? And the thing for me was his dad, who was the mayor of our town at the time, he asked him the next day, he's like, were you, because his dad used to take a walk around the property every night, and he asked him if he was outside, and he said his dad was really messed up about it. He was like, he's like, yeah, what the hell was that? I don't know what the hell that was. Like, I definitely heard that. Like, we called McGuire Air Force Base to see if they were testing something. Like, it was really crazy. And I heard it once more later when I was out in the field with a buddy of mine. But that night was really crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so this happens, and you tell me the story at the time. And this is like, late 80s.
Yeah, something, I don't know.
Something like that, maybe 1990, the latest. And I think it was maybe 85, 86, somewhere in there. So, I mean, I don't think drones were really being used that much.
So far as we know.
As far as we know. We're not really sure. Because, again, I'm sure, if you called the base and they were testing something, they wouldn't just be like, oh, yeah, they're not going to tell you shit. But, so you tell me the story, and then, fast forward a couple of years, maybe 5 years later, and I'm telling this story to another friend of ours who happens to live. His house is really close to where these tennis courts were. It's on the other side of this little area of forest is where our friend Keith's house is. It's really close to the tennis courts, which he honestly didn't think about at the time. But once we thought about it and looked at it on a map, we're like, oh my God, that's it. He's right there.
Yeah.
He described, he used to spend lots of time on his back porch. He used to hear that all the time. And when I told him the story, he's like, holy shit, you guys heard that too? And he had the same reaction that the mayor did. So then fast forward again a few years, I hear it in my backyard in the same town in New Egypt.
Yeah. Again,
it's near the base, McGuire and Fort Dix. And it's just like he described. You can hear it, and it sounds like a tornado. That's how I perceived it. It sounded like a tornado, but you didn't see one. And you didn't see anything.
Yeah.
But it was so distinct and so loud and so focused and so localized that you could follow it, where it, you could follow
I don't
sound.
know if you've heard, when a plane is coming from the distance, before you can hear the engines.
Yeah.
Just the sound of it cutting through the wind.
Yeah, yeah.
That's, to me, almost exactly what it sounded like.
Yeah.
And we both were convinced it was right over our heads, whatever it was.
Yeah. 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 And I heard similar thing, it was circling around my backyard at the time, and I could follow it with my eyes, although I didn't see anything because I'm just following the sound.
Yeah.
Never saw anything. I didn't even see the wind blowing trees or the bushes or anything.
Yeah.
But it sounded like it should be, but there was nothing there. So now again, fast forward again, maybe another 5 years, and I'm in a local bookstore, and I was into X-Files big time. Still am, but I mean, it was on air still at the time. And so I went to the bookstore where they had this section of X-Files books. I go there and I find this, this book and a couple other ones that I picked out. This book is entitled Whirlwind. Right? I grab it and maybe 2, 3 other ones. And I don't think anything of it. I don't make the connection yet. I start reading the book. Yeah, it's right there. I start reading the book, and lo and behold, the story takes place. Yeah, it's fun. HarperCollins.
Yeah.
The story takes place at McGuire, Fort Dix area of New Jersey, where we witnessed this quote-unquote whirlwind.
So does that mean somebody else reported this? Because how would they...
Well, that's the thing.
Okay.
So I read through the book, and this is where it happens, and they X-file it. They dramatize it for the story, right? Obviously. But it's based on this. I mean, it's what they described sounds like what we witnessed. Now, I reached out to another researcher, and I said, what the fuck, basically? And they said, well, think about what Chris Carter did. He would take actual reports of real phenomenon, and he would take it and dramatize it and make it into a TV show, and hence there's the X-Files. I mean, because there's paranormal activity, psychic stuff, and there's a story of one of the episodes about golems. That was a real thing in Judaism. So it was based on real stuff. So I reached out to the author of the book, because the author of the book is not Chris Carter, but it was another gentleman who wrote this story for Chris Carter. Unfortunately, the gentleman passed away. But there's the story. We experienced this phenomenon for real in the same area where this story takes place in the book. Super weird. Super weird.
So that's like confirmation,
In a way, but not a direct answer. It's a synchronicity, if you want to think of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, I mean, for me personally, like, it could have been some kind of wind thing. Like, easily. I've studied a lot of Native American philosophy, and like, it could have been some kind of like wind spirit. Is a thing.
Yep.
All I know is we heard something really weird.
It was freaky. I heard it. It was really, really freaky. And, again, I don't know. I mean, you could say it's kind of verification that it's just odd that I happened to catch this book and read the story about the same exact phenomenon that week. And I couldn't wait to tell you when I read that book. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, I got to read it. I got to check it out.
Yeah, definitely read that. But, and that's something we're going to do too in 2020 is I've been reading like a freak. So we're going to be referencing some books. Going into some cases that I find in books. A lot of them by John Keel, for one. And then going out into the field and doing some follow-up investigations and see if we can maybe drum up some more evidence or something like that. So look forward to 2020 being a huge year. That is if we're not nuked to death in the next couple of weeks, which is a distinct possibility. But
hopefully not.
Nuked to death. That'd be awful.
As long as it's quick.
It might not be. It might be a quick way to go.
If you survive the blast, it's going to be real uncomfortable for
whatever. As long as it's quick. I don't. No suffering. If it has to be, hopefully not.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of us are close enough to anything major that it's going to be quick though. It's going to be like more Fort Dix will go, so we'll be like real in that like. Radioactive penumbra of cancer and
so
happy 2020 everybody.
We'll die of tumors and our skin falling off.
Maybe I'll get those eye stalks I always wanted.
Could be.
I really want to get a prehensile tail.
That would be sweet. See, that's something awesome, useful that you could actually.
If I do that, I'm going to the UFC.
You could hold on to tree branches with it.
Yeah, no, I'm saying you could do something. You like punch it, pap, 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 and then like your prehensile tail comes around, like grabs their leg, takes it down.
You know what? We've had...
Like an iguana.
Right, so I'll tell you a really quick story. I worked in OBGYN. So we actually had a couple patients that would pin a tail, an animal's tail on the back of their pants. Well, you're talking about towels. So it would be like a fox tail or something, and they needed to wear it. I don't know. I have no answers, but...
Could they use it like another limb? That's what I want.
It'd be pinned on the back of their jeans, and then they would come through, and you like, well, I have to weigh on the scale, and they'd be like, well, I'm like, why do you have a towel on you? And they're like, I don't know, I just need it.
So they...
Wow.
I'm just saying.
So it was obviously a fake tail, but they were not...
It was a real animal's tail that's been cut off, I think.
What?
Or fake, both. Because you can buy real towels. This was...
Okay, but...
So, and then they would pin it on the back of their jeans, and they would come in, and someone would be down to the floor, and they have normal clothes on, and you'd be like, oh, yeah, so how's your towel today? Like, what do you say?
But they didn't want to take it off? That's the deal?
Well, it was pinned on their jeans. They can't pin it on their person. It would hurt.
Well, no, I know, but...
Yeah.
So there's like, I mean, that's the thing at the Renaissance Fair. Like, people get tails that they wear around.
No, these are, I think it's different. I think they just needed the towel. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's paranormal.
Some of the people at the fair might need the tail.
But they're like, why you have a towel? It's like, okay, why? Same reason why I guess you have a tattoo. I mean, that's my first.
That's a fashion thing. I mean, I guess if you want.
No, I don't think, I've never seen that as a fashion thing, but it can be. But I think it was more like insecurity or security issues that they needed the tail.
Right. Their security tail.
Yeah. And it was either fox tail or one that was long, and they come in and it'd be dragging on the floor.
That's super weird. I've never seen that.
Yeah, well.
I've never seen that.
I have. We had two people that would wear tails.
So there were people you see often in the office, and they would come in.
Well, not just patients. Just patients would come in once a year and need this towel on their clothes, and they would come in and it would be...
She's like... You can't see it, but she's like wiggling.
But it's on, yeah. It's because it's on with or it's sewn on, or it's on with a safety pin.
Okay.
And they would just walk, and it'd be like really fluffy, and it wasn't Halloween or anything.
Maybe they identify as whatever animal
Exactly.
that is.
It's almost like that's their.
They're species fluid.
I have no idea, but you have to be like, oh yeah, hi Tal, like just
Wait, so the tail is like a separate person? You have to talk to the tail too? Not just like they're a person with a tail?
Well, you
Like-
have to acknowledge it. Like we'll be like, oh yeah, how's your towel? I don't know.
What the hell? How did we get here?
I don't know.
Because he was talking about towels.
I just looked around and we're like really deep
Yeah,
in
let's
the
change
weeds.
the
and some
subject.
odd-
I think weren't you talking about towels?
I was thinking of a tail. I would like
I'm
to
sorry.
have a prehensile tail that actually like.
See, you can grab around the trees.
Yeah,
but
oh
it
my
would.
God.
But you want it to be alive.
Oh, I want an actual living prehensile.
Right. Well,
tail.
this one was
I want
like
to be a lemur.
Yeah.
no. This one was down to the floor and like
I
safety
wonder if
pin
they
on.
disqualify me from like MMA competitions if I had a prehensile tail.
They
Probably.
They might.
But if it's naturally part of me, like
Yeah, but it
You know?
gives you an advantage.
what if I had an extra leg? Does that mean I can't fight in UFC? That's messed up. That's total. I can't believe it. I'm gonna start a campaign. They can't keep me out with my prehensile tail. I identify as a lemur.
It would be really handy though.
Anyway,
It would, dude. I can tell you right now. Like I could be like sitting here. I could be like texting, and then my prehensile tail could pick up this beer, and I could drink it
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah, your tail can give you, and you can be like this, and you can be.
You just stretch out your spine. You could just grab onto a tree branch and just hang.
Hang there. Probably really good for your back.
It would be.
You know,
Takes all the pressure off of your
Especially
vertebrae.
just, like relaxed.
Yeah.
Oh man, we
Anywho,
shouldn't talk about this. I feel bad. I don't have a prehensile tail now. I'm gonna be
I know.
depressed all night.
Although if if the nukes start dropping and we get
Maybe.
Oh.
I feel like it'd be more my kids though,
chemical,
because it would mess up my genetics.
yeah, true.
Like I don't think I'd sprout. I mean, it'd be awesome if I just sprouted a prehensile tail. If I woke up with it, like if it grew all one night. I want it to be like 7 feet long though.
Kind of like Spider-Man. You just all of a sudden have all these powers.
I'm listening to.
If I had one that was like 10 feet long, I'd probably get like an attack of opportunity when you pass through that one 5 foot square to try to get over to me.
Yeah, you'd be like. Psh.
I'm like, oh, you just passed through a threatened square. Psh.
That's true. That's true.
And I would slap somebody beside the head with my prehensile tail. I feel like it's somehow worse than like if I took my hand and did it.
It would seem more.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I feel like we've
Insulting.
went outside. The...
We're coloring outside the line.
I told you I
Anywho,
shouldn't have come.
no,
I
you're
jeopardized the
fine.
mission.
No, you're fine. We had a couple tail stories.
Did you guys talk about prehensile tails at all while I was in Louisiana? I bet you didn't.
No.
No, we didn't bring it up.
Yep. I bring a lot to this podcast.
Now, did you go to New Orleans or
I
what?
did go to New Orleans, as they call
You
it.
have to say Nolans.
Nolans.
Yeah.
I
That's
say
a
that
very
loud, though.
spiritual. A lot of hoodoo. A lot of
Yeah. It's a really
the one
interesting
cemetery where that one woman is buried. What's her name?
place. Laveau or whatever. it
Yeah.
is.
Did you do any of that?
No.
Or what did you go there for?
I was doing the Louisiana Renaissance
May I
Fair.
ask? I'm sorry. I don't mean.
Yeah,
to be
you can,
I don't mean to be
absolutely.
nosy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I told you I'm
Okay.
just here for marketing, so I'd be happy for you to bring up any of my businesses. Yeah, no, we do the sword
Yeah.
fight show, Lords of Adventure, and we went
Yeah.
down. We were doing the Louisiana Renaissance Festival.
They have lots of good food
For
there.
6 feet. Yeah, they do.
Yeah. I would like to go back.
You should.
I
We should
was
do a
at-
show in New Orleans.
I was there.
We should.
on location.
Well, my daughter's 30. I was there when she was 1. So it was a long time
29
ago.
years ago.
Yeah.
Was it even called New Orleans at that
Stop
point?
it.
I'm kidding.
Motherfucker. Yes. No, it's called Nolans.
Let's go. Nolans. I've never
You
been.
can't say New Orleans and you can't fit in.
I don't really, when I go down there, I don't really like to go to New Orleans very much.
Yeah.
We're in Hammond, Louisiana. I love that.
Because, Bourbon Street, they're all...
I do not want to go to Bourbon Street.
Yeah, I
at
hear
all.
you. But it's all like the bars are open 24 hours.
Do you want to hear a quick Bourbon Street story?
A lot of interesting people. That's all I have to say.
Do you want to hear a quick Bourbon Street story?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
So our friend, who is a Marine and is in this female singing group at the fair, realized our other friend Shelly had never been to a strip club.
Oh boy.
So decided that we had to go to a strip club. It was a Tuesday night on Bourbon Street.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a minimum drink that you had to get.
Yeah.
I wound up getting like a $12 Coors Light.
Did you ever get the hurricanes that they
Jesus.
sell? The
No.
hurricanes?
No.
They're like this big and they're red. Go ahead.
I know. So we're in the strip. Nobody wanted to be in the strip club.
Oh, boy.
Except for the Marine who got us in there.
Not even the strippers.
No, so there's a girl up there dancing, and we're just talking to each other, and we have this table full of angry strippers, like leering at us the whole time,
Oh my God.
and they're looking at us, and they're looking at the stage, and they're looking at us, and looking at the stage, and the one of them's finally like, hey, she's working hard. Why aren't you tipping? Why aren't you tipping right now? And they were like so mad at us, and we're like, we don't want to be here. Like, so we're getting like yelled at and harassed by these strippers.
Oh my god!
Because we weren't groping them and stuff. Like we were just talking. We didn't want to be in the place, and man, it was scary. It was scary.
No stuff in the dollars.
No, like but it was like a Tuesday night, so we were the only ones in there, and they were mad because they weren't making any money, and we clearly weren't getting like lap dances and stuff or whatever people do in strip clubs.
Oh yeah,
and they were like, we started getting yelled at by the strippers for not enjoying the stripping enough. I guess
It should have been like, lady.
Oh my god!
Everything in here is sticky. You're lucky we're even sitting in here.
I don't want to be here. I don't like Coors Light. I just paid $12 for one.
True.
Ew.
Oh,
Yeah.
That was so bad.
that's
terrible. I don't want to go to Bourbon Street at all. There's some really cool things in New Orleans. There's really cool cemeteries and history stuff.
There's good food.
Yeah, don't go to Bourbon Street though. It's a scary, scary place.
I've been to Bourbon Street.
How many beads did you get?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. They're like, okay, show your tits, and then so then the girls will be like, well, show your penis. You know.
Yeah.
I don't think that's not a check I would want to cash.
No.
Because if they call your bluff on that, you're like, oh Jesus.
But there were both showing both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I have no doubt.
It's
Oh,
it's pretty much like a Sodom and Gomorrah situation down there.
New Orleans, especially, it was around Super Bowl time. It was Super Bowl.
Oh boy.
It was Denver Broncos and San Francisco 49.
Oh, were they playing in New Orleans that year?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I never been to a professional football game, and I got to go to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
So
Cool.
and then there was a lot of partying, and it was right around Mardi Gras.
Oh jeez.
Say no more.
You're lucky you made it out alive.
I know.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
glad you're here.
Thanks.
That's a crazy place. Real spiritual place. A lot of dark
Very
stuff
voodoo,
going on there.
a lot of hoodoo, a lot of witchcraft, a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah, that's another one of those places that just is in a different, like you mentioned before, it's just in a different psychological framework. It's just a different
and
context.
all the you have to be buried above ground because the water table's so high.
Yep.
Everybody's above ground. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Anyway.
I would like to visit a bunch of those cemeteries at some point.
I think for the most part down there, though, what I've seen, a lot of the hoodoo stuff is more tourist stuff now. You know, so a lot of those shops, you got to figure out how to get back there and talk to the real people.
Yeah.
Because what you see on Bourbon Street and like all those places, I don't think are the. It's just my
I agree. You got to go to the back alleys and
very amateur opinion.
You have to go to
I agree.
Doggone Alley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Alrighty, people.
Over and out.
It's been great.
Yeah, thanks for coming tonight for our 2019 wrap up.
Yep.
And
was a good year.
This is the last episode of season 1, so
2019 was a good year for the bunker.
2019.
Yes, it was. I do declare.
Yeah, 2020 is going to be a good year if we don't die and get chemical poisoning and grow prehensile tails. We're going to be out in the field. We're going to be.
If we get a prehensile tail,
won the
that
tail.
makes for a great year.
We want the towel.
We're going to be out in the field. We're going to be getting some good stuff.
Can't you say what you said about any year? Really, it's going to be a great year if we don't really mess it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it doesn't suck, it's going to be awesome.
It's going to be great. Well, all the fashions are coming back from the 1920s, dude. So it's going to be great.
That is true.
You're going to start seeing people in like
That is true.
vests and ties walking down the street. Peaky Blinder hats everywhere.
True.
Yeah.
It's true.
Start smoking again with how the women had at the end of the cigarettes.
It'll probably be vape now, though.
Big, long, vape on the end, like a 2-foot long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It's going to be good. It's
Yeah.
going to be good. So, so thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
on board for 2019.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for joining us in the bunker. And we look forward to another awesome year. Cheers.
Cheers.
Slancha.